You have about 30,000 days. Most people waste them like they have millions. This isn't just about time management, it's about understanding how life actually works.
30,000. Let that number sink in. That's roughly the average human lifespan. And if you're 30, you've already blown through over 10,000 of them. But the real problem isn't the number. It's that our routines become a trap. The same commute, same tasks, same shows every night, it all just blurs together. Your brain literally stops recording new experiences, and that's why time feels like it's speeding up.
So our first challenge is mastering our own time and attention. We have to learn how to fight back against that blur. This phenomenon is called time blindness, and the cure for it? It's novelty. New experiences, even small ones, like taking a different route to work, trying to learn a new skill, or just talking to a stranger. They force your brain to wake up and pay attention. This creates new memories, and those memories expand your perception of time, making a year feel like a full year again. We have this funny quirk where we consistently overestimate what we can cram into a single day, which just leads to frustration. But at the same time, we wildly underestimate what's possible in a year of small, consistent steps. The big takeaway here is to stop obsessing over the day-to-day and start focusing on the long game. So how do you define that long game? Try this mental model. It's called the Deathbed Test. I want you to imagine you're 90, looking back on your life. Suddenly, all the noise, all the busy work, it just falls away. What's left? Those are your real priorities. It's a powerful way to separate what's merely urgent from what is truly important. And this leads us to a really practical tool called the to-list strategy. It's all about ruthless elimination. First, you write down all your goals. Then, you circle your top 3, the most important ones. Everything else, that goes on a second list, your avoid at all costs list. Because knowing what not to do is the best way to protect your attention for what really matters. Okay, so once we've focused our time, we can turn to the people we spend it with. Let's talk about building real, meaningful connections.
Think of every relationship like a bank account. With every single interaction, you're either making a deposit or withdrawal. And here's the thing, small, consistent deposits, like a random check-in text or remembering a little detail about someone, they build a much higher balance than big, occasional grand gestures. And you absolutely cannot make a withdrawal from an empty account.
In fact, genuine connection really boils down to a formula. It takes time, plus vulnerability, plus shared experiences. You can't shortcut any part of that equation. It's also worth remembering that shared suffering, going through a tough time together, often forges bonds that are way stronger than just shared pleasure. Now, let's switch gears and talk about designing your career and your own personal growth. Because honestly, the old rules are completely broken. We need a new model. I want you to forget the idea of a career ladder. Today's careers are much more like a jungle gym. Instead of a rigid, linear climb, you're moving sideways, maybe even down for a bit, to acquire a unique combination of skills. And listen, early in your career, you should be optimizing for learning, not for money. Money will always follow knowledge. Staying comfortable, that's just career quicksand. So to navigate this new jungle gym, you need some learning accelerators. First, the teacher effect. If you really want to learn something faster, try to teach it to someone else. It forces you to understand it on a much deeper level. Second, read biographies. You get a lifetime of hard-won lessons in just a few hours. And third, learn to quit strategically. Quitting isn't failure. It's freeing up your time and energy for a better opportunity.
All right, next up is health and energy. And this is so important because it's the multiplier for everything else in your life. Everything depends on this.
Let's be really clear about this. Your energy is far more valuable than your time. 8 focused, energized hours will always be more productive than 12 draining, miserable ones. And sleep? Sleep is not a luxury. It's a non-negotiable performance tool. Seriously, poor sleep gives you the decision-making skills of someone who is drunk. So managing your energy has to be an active process. First, do an audit of your life. Figure out what gives you energy and what drains it. Second, stop trying to rely on willpower. It's a finite resource. Instead, design your environment to make good choices the easy choices. And finally, just move. Even small bursts of physical activity, micro workouts, can create huge mental clarity. Next up, achieving financial and emotional freedom. Because true freedom is really a combination of emotional regulation and financial wisdom. Did you know that the actual chemical reaction for an emotion like anger only lasts about 90 seconds in your body? That's it. After that initial wave passes, you are actively choosing to keep that feeling going. You can't control the first wave, but you are 100% in control of the second one. That's the core of emotional regulation. Now, on the financial side, you have to watch out for lifestyle inflation. That's the trap where as your income goes up, your spending goes right up with it. It keeps you stuck on a treadmill. The real goal isn't just more money, it's time affluence. Using your money to buy back your time, to control your own schedule. That is what true freedom looks like. All right, let's move on to unlocking your mind. We're going to talk about creativity and mental models, which are really just tools for building better solutions to problems. Creativity is a lot like a rusty faucet. When you first turn it on, the water's going to be brown and gross. You have to let all the bad ideas flow out before you can get to the good, clear ones. The real trick is to separate the act of creation from the act of judgment. Just create first and worry about editing it later. And mental models, they're just shortcuts for better thinking. For example, always remember the map is not the territory. Your perception of reality is just a simplified model. It's not the real thing. Use second-order thinking. Don't just consider the immediate consequence of a decision, ask, and then what happens? And try inverse thinking. Instead of only asking how to succeed, ask yourself what causes failure, and then just avoid doing that. And this all brings us to the big, unifying idea, the art of life design. The point is that your life isn't something that just happens to you, it's something you have to actively build brick by brick. So I want you to stop making these huge, rigid 5-year plans. Instead, run small, low-cost experiments to see what works. Focus on making tiny 1% adjustments because those compound into massive results over time. You need to define your own metrics for what a successful life looks like, not society's. And finally, use monthly reviews to check in, to course correct, so you don't wake up one day with a whole year's worth of regrets. Because ultimately, all of these principles, they all point to one single choice. Time is going to pass no matter what you do. The only real question is whether you choose to design it or just drift through it.